In the opening scene of the film, we are shown a memory from Hugh Glass's past, where he enjoys peaceful moments with his son and his wife, a Native American woman from the Pawnee tribe. The memory continues with a haunting image of destruction, where their home is burning, and Glass is seen cradling his wounded son amid the ruins. In the present, Hugh Glass is working as a scout for a group of fur trappers. He is seen hunting with two young men, Bridger and his own son Hawk. Elsewhere, John Fitzgerald is giving orders to the team. All of the fur trappers, including Glass, are employed by a man named Captain Andrew Henry. As Bridger, Hawk, and the others bring in their harvested pelts, they are suddenly ambushed by the Arikara tribe, also called the Ree. The fierce and chaotic attack forces the men to retreat and flee toward their boat. After the trappers escape, the Arikara reclaim the fur pelts left behind. It's revealed that their aggression is driven by the search for their chief's kidnapped daughter, believed to have been taken by white men. On board the boat, another crew member dies from his injuries. Still wary of another attack, Captain Henry turns to Glass for advice. Glass suggests they abandon the river route, controlled by the Arikara, and travel overland instead. Though Fitzgerald objects due to the longer and harsher path, Captain Henry orders the group to follow Glass's plan. On land, they decide to stash the remaining fur pelts to lighten their load, as carrying them would make the journey much harder. Fitzgerald, furious that they're leaving behind valuable goods, vents his anger by provoking Glass. Hawk almost reacts, but Glass stops his son, trying to avoid unnecessary conflict. That night, two members of the group sneak away, choosing to travel downriver with the boat, ignoring Glass's warning. As predicted, the Arikara attack the next morning and kill them. Meanwhile, Glass and the remaining men continue their trek through the wilderness. While scouting the area, Glass is suddenly attacked by a grizzly bear. The encounter is brutal. He's mauled nearly to death, but manages to kill the bear before collapsing. His fellow trappers find him severely injured beneath the bear's body. Captain Henry does what he can, stitching up Glass's wounds, but it's clear his condition is dire. In a separate scene, the Arikara negotiate with a group of French traders. They offer the stolen pelts in exchange for horses to aid in their continued search for the chief's daughter. Though tensions rise, they eventually reach an agreement. Back in the American group, Captain Henry realizes that transporting Glass over the mountain will be nearly impossible. Exhausted and losing hope, he considers ending Glass's life to prevent further hardship, but cannot bring himself to do it. Instead, he offers money to any men willing to stay behind and care for Glass until he dies. Bridger and Hawk selflessly volunteer without asking for payment, but Fitzgerald, tempted by the reward, agrees to join them. Before leaving, Captain Henry reminds Fitzgerald to care for Glass with dignity and give him a proper burial. Later that night, Glass lies helpless as Hawk stays by his side, encouraging him to hold on. Glass slips into another memory of his wife's death, which stirs his will to survive. The next morning, Fitzgerald digs a shallow grave for Glass. When Hawk and Bridger step away to look for food, Fitzgerald leans over Glass and tells him that it's time to die, asking for a blink if he agrees. Perhaps surrendering to fate, Glass gives a faint blink. Fitzgerald begins to smother Glass, but suddenly Hawk returns and tackles Fitzgerald to stop him. A brief struggle follows. Hawk yells for Bridger, but Fitzgerald, desperate to silence him, fatally stabs Hawk right in front of Glass, who can only watch in agony, unable to move. Moments later, Bridger returns, unaware of what has just happened. Fitzgerald lies, telling him that the Arikara are nearby and Hawk has gone missing. They quickly bury Glass, who is still alive, and abandon him. The next morning, Glass regains consciousness beneath the dirt and snow. Though his body is broken, his spirit is not. Using all the strength he can muster, he crawls to Hawk's body and mourns in silence. Elsewhere, Bridger begins to suspect Fitzgerald's story. He questions why Fitzgerald was alone and what really happened to Hawk. When he presses too hard, Fitzgerald tries to shoot him, but his rifle misfires, and Bridger survives. Back in the wild, Glass begins his long and painful journey to survive. Despite his injuries, he continues moving forward, driven by grief and the need for justice. Glass, now able to walk with the help of a stick, continues his fight for survival. Suddenly, he spots the Arikara nearby and makes a desperate escape into the river. Though the current is rough, he miraculously survives and drags himself to the riverbank. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald and Bridger arrive at a native village that appears to have recently been attacked. Bodies lie scattered, and the two take horses they find there to continue their journey. Back with Glass, he pushes on despite his weakened state. Haunted by visions of his past, he encounters a Pawnee man, whom we'll refer to as Hikuch, hunting alone. Glass asks for a portion of his catch to eat. The next morning, Hikuch sees the infected wounds covering Glass's body. Glass tells him how he was mauled by a bear, abandoned by his team, and how his son was murdered. Seeing his suffering, Hikuch invites Glass to travel with him. Later, by the riverbank, Hikuch tends to Glass's festering wounds. He warns that without treatment, Glass might die. Elsewhere, Fitzgerald and Bridger reach Fort Kiowa and report back to Captain Henry. Fitzgerald lies about what happened to Glass and Hawk, claiming they both died. Bridger stays mostly silent, clearly troubled by the truth. Meanwhile, Hikuch sets up shelter for the night to shield them from an approaching snowstorm and applies traditional medicine to aid Glass's healing. After the storm has passed, Glass wakes up to find Hikuch has been hanged, killed by a group of French trappers. Not far from Hikuch's body, Glass sees the Frenchman resting. He originally only intended to reclaim Hikuch's spotted horse, but then he notices a native woman being dragged and assaulted by one of the trappers, revealed to be Powaka, the kidnapped daughter of the Arikara chief. Quietly, Glass intervenes, putting a knife to the attacker's throat and signaling Powaka to grab his weapon. She kills her captor and flees, while Glass retrieves the horse and escapes after shooting at the other trappers. Back at the fort, Fitzgerald questions Captain Henry about his share of the fur trade payment, knowing the pelts were left behind. In the wilderness, Powaka successfully evades the Frenchman and is safe for now. While resting, Glass is suddenly ambushed by the Arikara warriors, still searching for their chief's daughter, unaware that Glass has just saved her. Glass escapes but falls off a cliff, surviving only because his body lands in the branches of a tree. As another snowstorm hits, Glass guts his horse, removes the internal organs and climbs inside the carcass to protect himself from the cold. Using the animal's warmth, he survives yet again. When the storm clears, he resumes his journey back to the fort to confront Fitzgerald. Meanwhile, a lone survivor arrives at the fort asking for help. This man, let's call him Murphy, is cold and starving. Bridger notices the water flask that he had left with Glass, now in Murphy's possession. Murphy explains that he found it near the body of a dead Frenchman. Bridger realizes Glass might be alive. Fitzgerald, aware that Hawk was murdered, agrees with Bridger's claim, trying to redirect suspicion. Captain Henry orders a search party to investigate the sighting location. That night, as the search team calls out into the dark wilderness, they are shocked when Glass himself emerges from the forest, still alive. Captain Henry immediately has him tended to and detains Bridger for lying about Glass's fate. Back at the fort, Fitzgerald has fled, taking Captain Henry's money with him. Enraged, Henry considers executing Bridger, but ultimately locks him in the fort's prison instead. Later, Glass confirms that Bridger was merely following Fitzgerald's orders and didn't witness Hawk's murder. Glass insists on going after Fitzgerald himself and asks for a horse and a rifle. Captain Henry initially refuses, saying Glass should rest, but eventually agrees to join him in the hunt. The next morning, guided by Glass's tracking skills, the two set out. At night, they rest, and by morning, Glass spots smoke nearby, evidence of a campfire. The two men split up to approach quietly. Captain Henry encounters Fitzgerald first. As he tries to apprehend him, Fitzgerald shoots him dead. Hearing the gunshot, Glass hurries to the scene and finds Henry's body. Tracking Fitzgerald, Glass sets a trap by dressing Henry's corpse to resemble himself and placing it upright on a horse. Fitzgerald shoots at the decoy from a distance, only to discover it isn't Glass. As he inspects the body, Glass shoots and wounds him. Fitzgerald flees into the forest, and a violent chase ensues. They end up at the river's edge, where a final brutal fight takes place. As Glass gains the upper hand, he sees the Arikara on the opposite bank. Rather than kill Fitzgerald himself, he sends him floating downriver, delivering him to the Arikara. The Arikara spear Fitzgerald, killing him. Their chief, along with Pawaka, now reunited, spares Glass and rides past him. The film ends with Glass, bloodied and exhausted, gazing into the wilderness alone.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.